Subconsciously, we all believe God is white. That is the most powerful figure.
Facts.
That is the most powerful figure in the universe.
Yeah, I thought God.
When I was growing up, that's the image
that's the image that we get, right? That's because we grown in a Eurocentric society, right? It's not something that is a bad thing or a good thing. It just is what it is. I'm not saying that it's bad or good. So if you grow in a society where God looks like you, and you grow in a society where you know that you are subservient to God and you don't, subconsciously that dynamic happens.
That makes sense.
I've been to South Africa, right? And that is the first time that I actually saw white people treated as God. But do you know what?
I'll be real with you.
Do you know, I also think there is a level of subconscious superiority that a lot of people have that they don't know exists until they're in a certain situation. And so
even breaches the
right? And so when you're put in if so instance, we're 4 black guys in here, right? And so we've had an experience as black people. If you bring a white person in here with power, right? Who is probably cool. Don't get me wrong, they're not a racist. At some point in time, the dynamic will shift to them being the one in power. Or them feeling that way.
What are you theorizing that's based on race? Or what are you
yeah, because...
But why?
I think historically, certain peoples have been put in positions of power. Okay, so we look at the subconscious conversation. Subconsciously, we all believe God is white. That is the most powerful figure.
Facts.
That is the most powerful figure in the universe.
Yeah, I thought God.
When I was growing up, that's the image
that we get, right? That's because we grown in a Eurocentric society, right? It's not something that is a bad thing or a good thing. It just is what it is. I'm not saying that it's bad or good. So if you grow in a society where God looks like you, and you grow in a society where you know that you are subservient to God and you don't, subconsciously that dynamic happens.
That makes sense.
I've been to South Africa, right? And that is the first time that I actually saw white people treated as God. And I'm talking about post apartheid.
What do you mean white people treated as God? So
I couldn't believe the way white people were treated.
The same thing in Nigeria. When you go,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, why are you treating this guy like he's God? What is going on?
Landing liquid, but a lot of the time it's poverty that does that. It's if I look after you, then you're gonna look after me. Like, just give me a tenner and I'm laughing. When I land in Niger, if they fuck the black people, they're running straight to the white man. Let me take your bag. Do you want a taxi?
That's colonization. You see, because that's the history of colonization, the history of God being white, all this kind of stuff. A lot of black people, in my personal point of view, don't realize their subconscious conversations that go on with white people. And I think a lot of white people don't realize the subconscious conversations that go on with them with black people. That's just my personal point of view.
No,
I'm not saying that it's a malicious thing. I want people to understand. I think a lot of what we see as racism today is not conscious and malicious.
I agree.
I don't think it's conscious and malicious. I think it's a programming.
Yeah, 100%. That all comes down to your level of self-awareness. Because what you're saying now is a situation of, if you was truly a person that reflected within about your experience in the world and how you come to be in the world, even from like an epistemological standpoint, you'd understand that what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Because if you actually looked within, you'd be like, okay, cool. Like with the example of Nigeria, even a normal white person, let's say just visiting for just a normal holiday, is greeted by a plague of just bare black people saying, naturally, that's going to inflate your ego somehow.
Of course it is.
Why would
Subconsciously,
100%.
Of course it is.
Like, you'd feel like a G. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because at first I thought you were reaching me. Then when I actually think about it, like when I go to Niger, when I've seen, like, for example, my sister's quite a lot fairer than me and she looks mixed race. Like, they'll just like, when we go to like Ojo Elegba, go to like the slums,
right?
They will like be giving her marriage proposals. They're like, oh my God, English girl,
angel.
Ain't that, like, I'm just like, really, all you've seen is fair skin and
100%.
They see a ticket to freedom.
But the thing is, this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying, this is the thing. When I talk about race, I try to talk about race without the, oh my God, people need to die, someone needs to hate, I don't do it like that. I try to look at it objectively and say, okay, this is what has been happening historically, and these are the results of that historical thing. So I think what happens a lot of the time, especially with white people, is it's like they don't want to admit that this history ever happened and they didn't gain. And this, sorry to cut, but it's when a lot of people talk about white privilege. People say white privilege doesn't exist. And I'm like, the reason why you say that is because, like you said, you've not been to Niger. Right?
Yeah.
You've not been to Niger, bro.
You put that still.
You've not been to South Africa.
You ain't been there.
You can't tell me white privilege don't exist if you ain't been to Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Are you mad? Of course white privilege exists.
Yeah.
Even like the remnants of the whiteness. So even my cousin, he wanted me to open a business with him. He was just like, oh, because you're British educated and because you look a bit different and because you've got a British accent. Like if you go to any benefactor and pitch them an idea, they're going to want to invest because they just see you as
just seems
a
smart.
superior.
Yeah.
Even though like you have no credentials to your name.
You see, these kind of conversations, sorry to cut you, but these kind of conversations I would like to have with white people in the room. Because I don't think that when I talk about race, I'm malicious about it. I don't think I'm like, yeah, but you know what, you're white and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of black people get that. Oh, well, you know, you're just white. And they feel attacked. I don't want to attack white people. But I want to have the conversation, though.
See, but I think
I want to have the conversation.
I think you're right in that sense, but the difference is that when a lot of people are confronted with the truth, it's very uncomfortable.
It is.
So to have that self-realization that this potentially could be me makes me feel disgusting. And a lot of people want to avoid that at all costs.
100%.
So whilst it's a good idea to have, I think regardless of how you put the message across, it's still going to make me feel uncomfortable. And for those people who are willing to go through the discomfort to come out on the other side, fantastic. But a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You're absolutely right. I think that's a lot of the time. I've been called a quote unquote reverse racist before, right? Meaning that I hate white people basically. And I'm like, have you got anything from what I'm saying? Have you got hatred from anything that I'm saying?
Deflection all the way.
But I'm just like, I'm not saying that these people should be colonized or kill them. But I want to have the conversation about race.
Do you ever talk about reparations?
Yeah, I've spoken about reparations. And I said, my idea on reparations is, do black peoples in America specifically deserve it? Or are they owed it? Yeah, I would say they are.
Correct me if I'm wrong, do Native Americans they get reparations, don't they?
Yeah, they should get reparations, right?
I swear they
got
they did get something.
They got something.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if you've historically given people reparations, Jewish people, Japanese people, Native American people, why wouldn't you give it to the black people, right? So I believe you're owed it. My thing is, you ain't gonna get it.
It's not commercially viable.
It's never commercially viable.
10% of the US is black. How do you do that?
You're crazy. Yeah. You think they're going to cripple their economy for you? No way. So I'm saying, if you want to go ahead and listen, I'll get you. I get you. You're owed it. You ain't going to get it, because the bottom line is, nowhere on this planet have any people generally got up out of oppression because someone said, you know what?
There you go.
There you go, mate. Don't worry about it. It's normally taken, or there's normally some kind of quote unquote revolution for it to happen.
And that's always
you don't just ask to be freed.
That's always been my grapple with black people. And this is where the conversation starts to caveat, because a lot of us are just lazy. We want to be given stuff as opposed to working for it.
Yeah. Because
the reality of this is, like, if reparations was something that we really sought after, then coming together to actually unite properly, to establish ourselves in particular industries and demand these things would seem way more viable if we actually put the work in. But a lot of us are just sitting there coasting through life and saying, well, white people this and white people that. Like, brother, what are you doing with yourself anyway?
It's leverage and power. I've always said, you're not going to get anything you don't have leverage or power.
Facts.
There's certain groups that, rather than to sit there at the foot of the oppressor's table begging for crumbs, they empower themselves and then make it so that they're so financially strong as a community that you cannot deny them.
You can't deny them.
You can't deny them.
This is where black people across the world globally, we fail at every level socioeconomically.
Yeah. And that's one of the problems I have with those people that call themselves FBA, Foundational Black Americans.